Financial Planner. Follow us on YouTube.
The Cabal is distracting the world from the real investigation, which is about to break. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, today the news broke that Manafort, well, he was indicted. And it looks like today he turned himself into the FBI. He's pleading not guilty. And Trump is out there. He's responding to all of this, saying that the charges filed against his former campaign manager Manafort by special counsel Meuller, well, this was done before he was his campaign manager. This was years before this. And what we're looking at right now is the Cabal. They're doing whatever they possibly can to continue their agenda. Now, where's this going to lead? I have a funny feeling that this is going to lead absolutely nowhere. Right now, the sources close to the White House have released what appears to be an unofficial statement that says this has nothing to do with the White House, that this was done on his own private time way before he was a campaign manager. But I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to link Trump with Manafort. And we can see that the Justice Department has released Manafort's Gates indictment. There's 2 people that are being indicted. And this indictment contains about 12 counts total. The big one appears to be conspiracy against the U.S. They are also facing charges of tax fraud, money laundering, and giving false statements. And in total, more than $75 million flowed through Manafort's offshore accounts. And this is according to Mueller's indictment. Now, we see that the other person is longtime deputy Rick Gates. They have been indicted. And both of them are, under house arrest at this point, and we need to look at this very carefully. First of all, is Mueller's special investigation legal? Well, as most Americans know, former U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions was sworn in as U.S. Attorney General under President Donald Trump on Thursday, February 9th, 2017. Then, less than a month later, Sessions recused himself from any investigation into whether the Trump administration colluded with Russia to swing the U.S. 2016 election. Now, on April 25th, 2017, Rod Rosenstein was confirmed to be Deputy Attorney General by a vote of 94-6 in the same Senate. On April 26th, he was sworn in. Then less than 1 month later, 30 days, remember that number, 30 days, on May 17th, Rosenstein appointed a special counsel and appointed his old friend from the FBI, Robert Meuller, with the following directive. The special counsel is authorized to conduct the investigation confirmed by then FBI Director James S. Comey in testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence on March 20th, 2017. Any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of Donald Trump and any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation and any other matters within the scope of 28 CFR section 600.4a. Now, we know from the information reported last week that the FBI had an investigation into the Clintons and monies they received from Russia in return for giving Russia 20% of all U.S. uranium. From the report, we found out that the investigation was supervised by U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein, who is now Trump's Deputy Attorney General, and then Assistant FBI Director Andrew McCabe, who is now the Deputy FBI Director under Trump. We also know that Robert Meuller was the head of the FBI at this time, and even hand-delivered uranium to Russia on an airport tarmac before the Uranium One deal went through. Obviously, all this is very corrupt. Now, the phony special investigation of Trump, the appointment of Meuller by Rosenstein, the FBI investigation in 2009, was hidden from Congress, the press, and all Americans, which involved the real collusion with Russia by the Obama administration and the Clintons. Now we find something startling. It appears that the special investigation created by Rosenstein and his appointed special counsel Meuller might not be legal. According to Cornell Law School's presentation of the legal code, 28 U.S. Code Section 592, preliminary investigation and application for appointment of an independent counsel states, application for appointment of independent counsel, the Attorney General shall apply to the division of the court for the appointment of an independent counsel if the Attorney General, upon completion of preliminary investigation under this chapter, determines that there are reasonable grounds to believe that further investigation is warranted, or the 90-day period referred to in subsection A1 and any extension granted under subsection A3 have elapsed and the Attorney General has not filed a notification with the division of court under subsection B1. Now, as noted above, Rosenstein was in his job less than a month when he set the special counsel up, and he did so with no preliminary investigation that is ever stated as part of the reasoning for setting up the investigation. If Rosenstein did set up the special counsel based on any work from the previous FBI Director Comey, then the investigation is tainted, as we also know now that Comey committed crimes for leaking classified information to the press. Now the question is, why did they come out with this news story now? Now think about it. The uranium deal, that news story hit. We were talking about the Clintons receiving money. We're talking about the Podesta group. We're talking about Obama. We're also talking about Fusion GPS. Now, all that stuff hit, and all of a sudden the corporate media, the Cabal, decided with Meuller, let's bring this Meuller information out there, which really has nothing to do with Trump. They're going to try to link it. They're going to do the best they possibly can. But this was going back way back in time, which really has nothing to do with the Trump campaign. Now, they're going to try to do whatever they possibly can. They're going to make it look like, yes, look, he received this money. This is because Russia wanted this way. They wanted to get into Trump's campaign. They've done this before. And this is all they have. What they're really doing right now is they're doing the wag the dog type of trick where they're distracting everyone, and they're going to keep blurting this out there because they don't want the Uranium 1 deal to come out. They don't want the Fusion GPS thing to come out. They don't want anyone to know who paid for the dossier. They're trying to keep this all hidden, and they won't even mention this now because they're just going to keep harping on this ridiculous Manafort Russian collusion, which there is no Russian collusion, by the way. But what's very interesting about all of this is that Tony Podesta, he decided that he needed to resign right now from the Podesta group. Now, it's his group. He started it. He's resigning from it. Why? And he came out and said that, he needs to fight this on his own and doesn't want the business to fight it with him. Now, he's separating himself from the Podesta group because, as we know, there were emails that were obtained that showed that Gates, which is being indicted right now, personally directed two Washington lobbying firms, Mercury LLC and the Podesta group between 2012 and 2014 to set up meetings between a top Ukrainian official and senators and congressmen on influential committees involving Ukrainian interests. Gates noted in the emails that the official, Ukraine's foreign minister, did not want to use his own embassy in the United States to help coordinate the visits because he knows they were being spied on, through FISA. Because the NSA and the rest of the intelligence agencies, they were spying on everyone. And this is where the plot thickens because while the bulk of the press has so far spun the entire Ukraine lobbying scandal, which led to Manafort's resignation, we know that the Clintons, the Podesta group, and the rest are involved in this. And they're trying to separate themselves from all of this. And this whole thing is going to completely fall apart around them. Think about this. The foreign donors that donated to Clinton, Ukraine, $10 million. England, $8.4 million. Saudi Arabia, $7.3 million. Germany, $6.7 million. And it goes on and on and on. This is what they're trying to cover up right now. They're going to keep everyone's eyes, just like with the economy, they keep everyone's eyes on the stock market and they don't tell you really what's going on everywhere else. They're doing the same thing. Now, let's take this a step further. It's been revealed that Obama paid nearly $1 million to Fusion GPS and the connected law firm that hired Fusion GPS to create this dossier. Now, Obama is now entangled in this entire mess here with Fusion GPS. And the FEC records showing that, yes, Obama's campaign organization, Obama for America, OFA, paid $972,000 to Perkins Coie, the law firm that hired Fusion GPS to put together a discredited Trump dossier. The fact that Obama was also working with Perkins raises many questions that need to be answered. Now, how come they aren't investigating this? How come this isn't all over the corporate media? Because this is what they're trying to hide. This is why they put out this whole Manafort thing. And this is why the corporate media is going to continually focus on this and talk about nothing. Now, we talked about how Fusion GPS was trying to hold back their bank records because they didn't want to let out, who was actually paying for all this. And we know that Clinton was one of them. I think there's many more. And Fusion GPS, under a lot of pressure, they said, okay, we're going to hand over our bank records. And I think there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come out of this. Now, have they altered the bank records? Maybe. But if we can really look into this, we can see what is going on here. And we could see at this point that they will be looking into this, and they will be looking to see what is going on. Now, Trey Gowdy is out there, and he's saying, well, wait a minute, let's look at this for a second. We have all this information about Obama, the Clintons, the Podesta group. We know the information coming out that Clinton was part of the payment, the down payment of paying for the Trump dossier. And he's saying that the failure of the Clinton campaign to disclose that it had spent over $10 million to fund research that led to the Trump dossier, well, this may amount to money laundering. And he says the following, and I quote, "I'm not an election law expert, but the good news is you don't have to be to understand the absurdity of believing that you can launder all your campaign money by just hiring a law firm." And, of course, we know that Clinton's out there saying, oh, I had nothing to do with this. I had no idea. The law firm was hired by the Clintons. Obama now has paid the same law firm $972,000. And this is all leading to the creation of the Trump dossier. But once again, we have no one looking at this. Why? Because they're using the wag the dog trick of, let's put up this ridiculous story. Let's show that years ago, this is what he did. And an indictment doesn't mean that they have a slam dunk case. They're just doing it because this is all they have. And of course, they're going to try to make links and things like that. But you're going to see over the months, yeah, they might go to prison. But it's never going to come back to Trump. It's going to fall apart, just like everything else. But they just needed it right now to cover up all of this, because they don't want any of this information getting out there. We see out in Spain, well, they took control of Catalonia. They removed the president there. They're removing the parliament. They're completely taking over everything because they're going to stop any type of independence movement. Now we see that the president of Catalonia, he might flee to Belgium right now because the Belgian migration minister is saying that, yes, he can come over here. He can seek asylum in Belgium. And we can see that, once again, the pressure from the establishment is so great, they will not allow the people to do what they really want. And under, the UN and many other laws, the people have the right to say, you know something, we don't want to be controlled by this country. And this is how civil wars get started. I mean, think about it. The revolution, this is how this started here in the United States, because the settlers here in the United States, the colonies, said, listen, we don't want to be part of the British government anymore. And we like to be separate. And the British government said, no, you can't do this. It's against our rules, our laws. And this is how it started. The same thing's happening in Catalonia. This was a grassroots uprising. The people voted. And of course, the establishment doesn't want them to do it. We see Duterte. He is going to be visiting Japan. And he's saying that, listen, we need to speak to Kim Jong Un and reassure him that nobody is out to remove him or destroy his country. And he's saying this because he understands what it means for another country to come in and overthrow the leader. And this is why he kicked out the United States. This is why he was able to remove the Islamic State, because the United States was not helping in this scenario. He was doing it on his own. Yes, there were reports that the United States was in there, but he was keeping them way back, nowhere near what his operation was, where his operation was to remove the Islamic State. And we see right now, he's saying, listen, we need to have a discussion between China, Russia, the United States, Japan, to say, listen, we're not going to remove you from your position. We're not going to have regime change. But the problem is the cabal wants a regime change. They want this to happen. And Duterte, he's playing like the middleman right now, trying to calm the situation down. Will it work? We'll have to wait and see. We'll see what happens when he visits Japan. We see the IAEA, the chief of the IAEA, came out and said, listen, we inspected the Iranian capital city of Tehran. We looked at the nuclear facilities, and Iran right now is living up to their nuclear-related commitments under the P5+1. All this talk about how they're violating this and that and the other thing is completely fake, phony, and false. Now, we knew this was completely fake. This was to try to push war with Iran. I mean, it's coming from Israel, it's coming from the United States, it's coming from Congress, it's coming from all those individuals where they're trying to push another war. Remember, the cabal, the coalition, they want war. The establishment, they want war. And if they can get it with Iran, let's get it with Iran. If they can get it with North Korea, let's get it with North Korea. And they're continually pushing. We see Russia right now may downsize its air group in Syria, because right now there's about 6% that the Islamic State is holding right now. They're saying we don't need the amount of equipment there. The Syrian armed forces, they can handle all of this, and we're going to, remove some of our equipment. They don't know when. They don't know when this is going to start, but they do have a lot of Russian planes there, an Su-25SM, Su-24M, Su-34, MiG-29, Su-30, Su-35C. They have a lot of helicopters, the Ka-52, the Mi-35, and it goes on and on and on. And they have a lot of equipment there, and they brought it all in to stop the paid mercenaries that where the United States, Israel, the coalition forces, they all pushed them into Syria and Iraq to try to have regime change in all these different places. And Russia used all of their technology, their equipment, to fight against the paid mercenaries. And it looks like the paid mercenaries are completely done. And basically, Syria is almost cleared. Now, we know that the cabal is still fighting in certain areas to try to hold certain areas, but it looks like this is coming to an end very, very quickly. We see fresh Syria talks. They're going to open in Astana. We see that groups are getting back together, minus the United States, and they're going to be talking about peace. We see the Saudi-backed Syrian opposition leader says overthrowing Assad is no longer a priority, and we know that Saudi Arabia, the U.S., and the coalition forces, Israel included, they all wanted Assad removed, and it looks like that is not going to happen. I know Tillerson was out there saying Assad doesn't have a future. He has an incredible future. The people love him. They brought Russia in. They liberated these cities, the towns. They got rid of the terrorists in the country. And Assad is staying. He's not leaving whatsoever. Actually, the Brigadier General Turki al-Hassan of Syria said, listen, this Kurdish region, this Kurdish push to have an autonomous region, it's not going to happen. And this is why. Well, the Brigadier General al-Hassan offered his opinion on the situation around Syria's largest oil field, Al Omar, which has been recently taken by the SDF. He said the U.S. wanted to take this oil field under its control to be able to supply oil products to all the groups they support and weaken the Syrian government. The oil field is now controlled by the predominantly Kurdish SDF because the Islamic State have left the area on the order of the U.S. The SDF have quietly captured the deposits, and he said that the U.S. won't be able to set up a Kurdish region on Syrian territory because there are very few Kurds residing in this area. And so there is not enough support for this plan. But we can see that they're going to try to do this. And once again, in Iraq and Syria, the international community, they're not buying into this. They realize that, hey, there's no support for this. the Kurdish people, there's just not enough of them. And the United States and the coalition forces, they've been paying the Kurdish army. They've been setting up the bases. They've been dividing this area. And it's just not going to work. And eventually this is all going to fall apart. And the Cabal is going to have to get out of Syria. This is coming very soon. The whole thing is falling apart. They need to get an event started. They need to cover up what is coming out. I mean, we see all these stories coming out of Hollywood right now about pedophilia, about womanizing, about all these different type of scandals. We see the Manafort thing is to distract everyone from the Uranium 1 deal, distract everyone from the Fusion GPS deal, distract everyone from everything that has been going on over these many, many years. And all this information is coming out. And we're going to see a lot more of this information come out. And unless the Cabal creates an event, which it looks like they might be heading towards this direction, because as we know, the FBI was running a simulation on a terror hit in an amusement park in Kingdom's Dominion, and we can see that this might be the next big thing, or it could be something else. But we could see that they've been preparing for something really, really big to distract everyone from everything to try to get us into war.